Are you living life, or is life living you? The answer lies in the divine love, healing, and wisdom within you. Welcome to Triple L, the Live, Love, Lotus Show, your podcast to help you consciously create your most incredible life. I'm TLotus, Minister of Spiritual Metaphysics, 7D Intuitive Healer, Master Lenormand Reader, and your host. I've learned how to tap into the power within myself to transform my life, and my divine mission is to help you do the same. Join me every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. Pacific Time as we explore the wonder that is the magnificence of your power and your light. We'll talk about how to deepen your spiritual wellness and work with universal energy to heal and align your mind, body, and soul. And I'll help you to connect to the answers you seek with spiritual Lenormand readings to guide you along your sacred path. It's time to tap into your magnificence. Are you ready to vibrate higher? Get ready to live, love, Lotus. Let's go. Welcome to Triple L, and thanks for tuning in. Today's episode is a special one. It is the first in a series I call Grieving in Gratitude. Grieving in Gratitude is a series I started on my blog, A TLotus Thought, where I share my grieving journey after the loss of my beloved son, my firstborn, Kerry James Hill, to suicide on his birthday, January 1st of 2021. He was 29 years old. And I'm sharing my experience on my blog and on Triple L as a part of my healing journey. My intention with this series is to raise suicide awareness and provide hope and support to the loved ones who are left behind and are on their own grieving journey. So I want to take this time right now to give a trigger warning that this episode and the Grieving in Gratitude series will talk about grief, loss, and the devastation that suicide leaves behind. If you're thinking about suicide, or if you're concerned about a friend or a loved one, there is a toll-free number available 24 hours a day to provide emotional support. Please call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255. And now, here's Grieving in Gratitude. So today is part 3 of my Grieving in Gratitude series, where I share my grieving journey after the loss of my son in January this year. And I do so with friends that support me as I share on my platform and in a very open and raw way. Today, I have with me my friend and my coach. She is the owner of the Choice and Courage Company. She's also a member of the Cornelia Stephanie Media Group, Diane McClay.
Hey,
Thank you,
T.
Diane. Thank you so much for being here today with me as I talk about this heavy stuff. Today, I want to talk about forgiveness, because there are, and I know that there are others who have similar experiences as me, that have a lot of resentment towards many different things. I am a spiritual being, or as I would like to say, spiritually elevated, yet I am human. And since all of this has happened, Diane, in January, there's so much anger that I've carried this entire year, stemming from things that have happened uh, surrounding my son's disappearance and his death. So thank you for being with me. Um, you are the perfect person to be here because you are not afraid to go there, and I want to go there. But
Thank you.
before we do, could you just tell my listeners and my viewers a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Thank you for having me, and thank you for trusting me with the vulnerability that you're about to share. My experience with grief is very different. I do not have many people in my life that I've lost, but my experience with grief is similar but different. Where I lost something that was very, very dear to me, and that is it was my identity and my community and a career that I loved with my heart and soul. And that was 6 years ago. And what I know now is, although it's not the same as losing a human being or even a pet that are very near and dear to our heart and help us form as individuals, what I know is that the process of going through that, of feeling like I lost something, feeling shame, feeling guilt, feeling angry, feeling resentment, feeling an anger that I didn't even know I was capable of tapping into, and then relearning how to live my life and live to get outside of that energetic piece that was holding me back from my better self. What I know is that the process of grief can be applied to losing a job. It's similar but not the same as losing a loved one. So in transparency, I'm going to learn in real time with you. This conversation, one of the things that I can do for people in my coaching business is I have a way of being able to listen and hear the story, and I can hear the words that aren't being said, and I can help people decipher their own mind, and I can help people put it into a brain map or a list or a set of priorities, or I can help clear the clutter. That's what I do at the Choice and Courage Company and at Diane McClay Coaching. And I've learned how to do that because I got separated from a job I loved, and I learned how to grow as an individual with the help of friends and other coaches along the way. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. I just want my powerful manifestors to get a little taste of who you are. You know, so let me start with this. I know that before I really just talk about the things I want and need to forgive, um, I know that when we hold resentment, when we hold the anger, when we hold to it so tightly that we literally are squeezing our own circulation off, it blocks us from our manifestations. It blocks us from the progression of healing in our lives. As a healer myself, I became the healer who needs healing. And I don't know, sorry, this thing beeped. Google's always thinking I'm talking about her. Always thinking I'm talking about her. So I became the healer. One second, sorry. I don't know why it's beeping, but I'm about to silence it.
Well, let me fill it in while you're doing that. You told me before we got on the air that friends need friends, coaches need coaches, and friends need coaches, right? And maybe what's happening right now with Google is maybe you are talking to the universe, and maybe Google is trying to figure out how to disseminate the power of TLotus and 7-dimensional healing while you are literally feeling what you're feeling, and you're literally putting it into the space around you. Maybe it's just as simple as that somebody out there is receiving what you have to say.
I feel I need to slow down. It's almost like I want to just jump into it, and that just slowed me down. I just want, it's slowing me down. holding on to the resentment and to the anger and to the low vibration, it prevents us from our happiness, our manifestations, and our peace. And I have been, when you lose someone, when you lose a child, I've said this before on other episodes, when you losing a child is horrific. And then it's what compounds the grief is losing a child to suicide. Because if someone had murdered my son, or if it was a tragic accident, the grief would still be just as heavy, but I would have somewhere to direct my energy to. There's a reason why, there's a reason why. But he made the decision, and it's taken me a, a, a long time to and a lot of deep inner work to even forgive myself, because I held a lot of guilt because of his choices. But today I want to talk about the things that have been more difficult for me to let go. And I want to start with when he was found. He disappeared. The last day we saw Kerry was on Christmas Day. And then on the 28th, which was a Monday, and it was raining. I remember and will always remember every single detail about this as if it happened yesterday, like almost down to the minute. On the 28th, he went missing, and normally I'm very, very private on social media, but I immediately went live on my page, like, help me look for my baby, help me look for my baby. The Gardena Police Department, they're, they took over the case. There were 3 different police departments all looking for him, but because he resided in Gardena, which is about 5 miles from me, that sheriff's department took over, and he was found on New Year's Day early in the morning, probably around 3 o'clock, or between 2:30 and 3 o'clock. The whole time, from the day he was missing to the day he was found, I was in constant communication with the Gardena Police Department, subsequently the Torrance Police Department, and the Redondo Police Department. It was the Redondo Police Department that found him. And the protocol is to notify the next of kin, which is me. All 3 of those departments had my information, the lead detective I was talking to every day. But how I was notified was by his girlfriend, because they came to her door. And I received that call at 3:30 in the morning on New Year's Day. And that's how we know that he killed himself on his birthday, because where he was found and when he was found, the state he was in, he wasn't dead very long. So that's how I was notified. I was never notified properly. I got the call from his girlfriend, and then 5 minutes after that, I got the call from the coroner's office. And had she not called me first, the coroner's office would have been how I found out. And I was really pissed off about it.
I can imagine.
So pissed off. And I held on. I held, in the rawness and the shock of finding out that your son died by suicide after looking for him for so many days. Um, you know, I really wanted to lash out. I wanted to file complaints. I wanted to go to the press. I wanted to anything to make them feel just a tinge of the pain that I felt when they didn't properly notify me. And although I I know that they it wasn't their intention to compound my pain, but it did. I did get I did get an apology and I'm sorry from the lead detective that I was talking to, but never really any acknowledgement that they didn't follow their own protocol. So that's one thing that, especially moving towards closer to the anniversary, December is coming, or, by the time our listeners hear this, it will be December. And so like I said, my mind runs through these details over and over again.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Absolutely.
I don't want to mislead your train of thought, but why did you decide that forgiving the police department was one of your first steps? Was that kind of like
the first thing that compounded my pain?
Okay. All right, good. And
I'm kind of going in chronological order.
Right. But what I'm hearing is, you have this event and it's shocking and you don't know what to do and you have anger and you have outrage and you feel, you feel like what I think I'm hearing is that you feel like you've had a close connection with the police departments because you were talking to them every day, because they were supporting you and trying to find him. And then something happened, like either that stopped, it got dropped, somebody didn't follow through, they made some assumptions maybe that weren't true, like maybe he was closer to the girlfriend than he was to you, Kerry was. But I want to ask you this.
No, I don't think it was that. It was because he lived where he lived. He resided in Gardena. So they just went to his place of.
Right. Okay. So but my question is, when you think about, as you've been developing this journey of forgiveness and you've been developing how you work with grief every day, because you and I have talked about how you never really get over grief, especially if you're a parent who loses a child, even more so if it's a parent losing a child to suicide. But you just get to a point where you're able to deal with it differently every day. When you had the aha in your mind, oh man, I need to put some forgiveness out on the table, did you notice how your body changed when you started focusing on forgiveness rather than the pain? Yes. And is that something that would be helpful to share with people right now?
Yes, because I, help my clients through working their way to forgiveness for many, many different things, whether it's grief or a failed relationship or a loss of a job or career. And so I have the spiritual knowing that holding on to the resentment and the anger is really only hurting me.
Yep.
There is nothing I can do about the fact that they didn't notify me. It hurt me though. And I wanted that recognized. I wanted that acknowledged. In the moment when that happened, I was so freaking hurt by it, but it wasn't personal. I know that it wasn't personal by them. There's the spiritual side of me that knows, and then there's the human mama side was like, I don't care. Like, y'all should have told me with a bunch of expletives, and there may be a couple, y'all unapologetically TLotus. So if I cuss, I cuss. But that's how, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's not going to do me any good to hold on to the anger and the pain from that. They didn't know Kerry. They didn't know me. They were just doing their jobs or not doing their jobs, however you want to look at it. But there's nothing that I can do to change that other than to, I remember telling the detective, you can't let this happen again. You cannot. Families are, they're waiting on word. They want to know, you got to get your shit together.
Right.
I did say that to them.
Right.
But other than that, it's just hurting me more. So I want to lift some of that off of myself. And that is why I am where I am with this today.
Well, what I want to say to that is 2 words on the back of my wall are choice and courage. And what I want to openly acknowledge, first of all, is I see you, right? I see and I hear the pain that you went through, and I see the growth that you have made. I did not know you a year ago when this was happening, but my soul feels the growth that you have taken on for yourself. And it takes courage to let go of the pain that somebody else has caused you. Because when we let go of that, then what do we have, right? If we have anger, we have anger. And we can focus on anger, and that anger serves us, and it can get us up in the day, and it can put us to bed at night. Mm-hmm. But when we make the choice to rise up above that and to serve our higher calling and to live within a higher spirit of self, it takes a lot of courage to say, this piece doesn't serve me anymore, and I need to let it go. And that's, I think, a key component to forgiveness is you have to understand if this piece serves you, forgiveness isn't going to come very easy. But when you can say to yourself and your loved ones and your friends, you can say, hey, you know what? I'm ready to move on. This doesn't serve me. Someone else's baggage. I need to just leave it on the curb, say my prayers, and be done. I think that is ridiculously powerful. And I want to call that out. So you said you had a second, there's a couple people, there's a couple of things in your journey that you want to offer forgiveness for.
Yes.
And you're going to do that at the end.
Yeah. The second thing that I have been holding even more resentment than not being notified properly for, where my son was found was at the Target parking lot in Redondo Beach, across the street from where my son worked. And it's interesting, that area, because where he worked on that side of the main thoroughfare is Torrance, but just cross the street and it's Redondo Beach. He was found in the back of their parking lot. It's huge. It's a huge, 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 huge parking lot. It was way in the back. I remember after coming from the coroner's, before going home, I needed to see where he took his last breaths. As a mom, there is this instinctual, like, you know, I was there for his first breaths. I raised that boy. I need to see where he was. And when I got there, there was glass. I may show just a picture of where he was, but there was just nothing but glass left, because police had to break. He was in his work van, and the police had to break the glass to get to him. So there was glass everywhere where the car was parked. And I immediately pulled out my phone and went live. And I said, please come honor my baby. Please bring flowers, candles. Please come honor my baby. And literally, while I was on the live, 2 minutes into it, people were coming with flowers. That's how much he was loved. It didn't take long at all. And people just, you know, later that evening, the vigil grew to many flowers and many candles, and people would come and just, you know. And then I went to San Diego. I have a good friend. I need to take a pause right here and give a shout out to Brandon Keaton, aka Classic Man Barber. He's a very good friend of mine, and his wife Nikki. They let me stay with them for a night because I just had to get out of the energy of where I was. And on my way home the next day after, on my way home, I stopped there where he took his last breaths. And every single flower, there were cards, because people would take pictures and videos of it and send it to me. There was marshmallows, which he loved, and tequila, which he loved, and stuffed animals, a stuffed animal, not animals, but a stuffed animal, and just messages that I never got to read. All of that was taken and thrown away. And
so let me just get clear. This was how long after the vigil? Was
this was literally January 2nd.
The next day?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that hurt.
Everything that I just talked about, not being notified, all of that, January 1st. Also on January 1st, after I picked up his things from the corner, I stopped at that Target. I talked to the manager and I said, can you show me where he was? And they showed it to me. They put baskets around so that no one would touch the area, because I pulled out my phone and I said, you guys, please come honor my son. And they did. And then that night, I drove to San Diego to stay with my friend. When I came back on January 2nd, it
was all gone.
Everything was all gone.
So I can't even remotely imagine the double devastation at that point.
I felt like they stole that from me. I took that very personal, even though they didn't know who Kerry was, they didn't know who I was, even though I did go into the store earlier, and talk to them and say, I want, I'm going to ask his friends and my family to bring flowers. Is that okay? And they said, yes, that's okay. But on January 2nd, that shit was gone. And the reason I was given was that they were instructed to remove that stuff. I said, well, remove it and do what? Like they don't know. It was thrown away.
Right, because some other options, like one of the things I talk about is that our power comes from when we have awareness. So there's an awareness that this is important to you or to other people in the community. We have awareness that somebody needs time to process this information and these cards and letters that have shown up. And we have an awareness that this is ugly. I mean, it's like there's a lot of really hard feelings that are right out there in the open. And maybe that's part of the barrier, right? Is people don't know how to deal with people who are grieving. But a better option could be is just, hey, our policy says we need to take this down 24 hours. I know, but there are options, right? There are ways that we can navigate the world without it being extreme one way or the other. But somebody could have said, hey, we'd like you or some of your friends to take this down by a certain time. And you are the one who's responsible for collecting the stuff and taking it home. And if you don't, we'll take care of it, but it's probably going to go in the trash. Even that would have been more level of respect, right? Absolutely. But just say, to have the impression that you could hold a vigil, to feel like you've been given permission to do that, and then the next day to have all of that be completely wiped away. I would imagine that it would feel like you got like something got taken away from you again.
I'm about to say some real shit right now. Target didn't want the publicity, the attention. They didn't want it all over the news that a man took his life on New Year's Day in their parking lot. He was another Black man that died that was ignored.
Yeah.
That's why the fuck they did it.
Right. And even harder, knowing that, I can understand why the forgiveness piece would even be harder for this piece.
Mm-hmm. Because the area, and I know you're on Washington, the area where he took his life is Redondo Beach, and it's very small amount of minorities live there. It's Redondo Beach. Okay, it's very bougie. All right,
Pretty white is what I'm hearing you say.
very white. I don't, I don't really like to go there. I rarely go there.
Right.
Kerry, I want to say 95% of Kerry's friends were other than Black. I want to say the same, maybe not that high, but 50-50 for me. I don't see, color, but there has been an issue in the South Bay beach areas, including Torrance, Redondo Beach, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa
Right.
Beach. But that angered me. And they allowed us to bring more flowers and let that memorial or that visual stay there until we had his memorial, which we weren't able to have, but I will talk at the end about what we're going to have instead. And so, on the second, when I discovered everything was gone, I went live again and everyone started bringing flowers again. And it stayed for a week. But I carried the anger of that. It honestly, sitting with spirit and really examining why I was so angry about it. You just saw that raw. I just told you about the history of the South Bay here.
Right.
So I just felt like it was just another example of everything I just told you about the South Bay. And Kerry worked in the South Bay. He went to high school in Manhattan Beach. He lived most of his life in the South Bay, not in Inglewood. I mean, I raised him in Inglewood. Inglewood in the hood, up to no good, honey. You come out here, I'll let you know what we're talking about. But he spent most of his life and his music career in the South Bay. He gave so much to the South Bay. And so for the police department not to notify me that, and for all of that happened with the Target, I just felt like it was a kick in the gut on top of the tragedy that has happened. So I carried that, but I don't want to carry that anymore, Di, because they're, I know they're trying to, I don't think it was personal. I think they could have handled it differently, better. And they did allow us to bring, right. But I wasn't satisfied with that. And well, I held on to it.
So I just heard something really important there that might be good to call out for your listeners is a lot of things happen and nobody intends for it to be personal. But because we carry this anger, because we carry this grief, because, our feelings are all jarred up because something's been taken, I'm assuming, I'm speaking as if I've had the loss. But that there's that piece, right? Is that when the filter we look through makes everything so personal, it's hard to see anything but the personal. It's hard to open our hearts to forgiveness. It's hard to open our minds to, well, maybe it happened a different way and we're just not seeing it right. So I think the key there is how long can you sustain anger and rage and hurt and pain and negative emotions when you make it personal? And what I'm hearing you say is now we can have a conversation about, hey, maybe there's different ways that we can set things up so that people in the future don't end up feeling like how I feel. Yeah. But the challenge is if you really want to focus on forgiveness, you actually have to step through that it's personal window, and then you have to see what's on the other side of it. Do you agree?
Yes, I do agree.
Right? Would you say the minute that you were able to say maybe it wasn't personal, that allowed the seed of forgiveness to come into your heart?
I knew it wasn't personal in the moment.
Right. Doesn't feel like that.
It's deeper though, especially with everything. You have to so understand the framework of, or the timing of the fact that we just gone through that whole George Floyd thing and all of
Right.
the racial stuff that was unearthed because of this pandemic. We were forced to see that. Kerry's on Kerry's Facebook page, his cover photo, which is still there, says your Black friends are emotionally drained, and it's still there. So that's all I was thinking about. I was thinking about how much pain was inflicted or that he experienced just trying to be the best person, just radiating his light and and growing and being in an area that he was in all of his life, and then having that in the background. Was it personal to me, TLotus? No, but it was personal.
Right.
And do you
I do, and I don't mean to I do not in any way mean to say like shake it off. I am not in your shoes.
Yeah.
Being a woman, being a person who's white, I have some I have access to things that women and people of color may not, or they have to fight harder for. So I don't even remotely pretend that I completely understand where you're coming from or what you've experienced, but I can empathize. And what I'm saying is if you say, I'm so angry and they did this to me, what you're saying is they've done this to us for a very long time.
Yes.
And Kerry's death is a it's a product of that.
Yes.
You believe that
Yes.
that
Yes.
some of that oppression, some of that
Yes.
some of that energy that's being put into always having to fight for being a better person or not who people think they are, trying to prove themselves. I can only imagine the amount of weight that your son carried on his shoulders as a young Black man in that area of California, right? I can only imagine it. So there's one layer that's there's a lot of social pressure that you and your family and people of color have been carrying for a long time. And you're right, they are tired. And then to have some of that spill into your personal life where someone feels like they can't take it anymore, or they don't want to show up anymore, whatever his reasons were his reasons. But it feels like it's personal. But for you to get to the other side of that and say, okay, the police department didn't mean to attack me personally. The target didn't mean to attack me personally. It's just a series of events. That's where I'm saying that gives you as an individual room to start growing that seed of forgiveness, is that it wasn't meant specifically to hurt you, but you are the way through all of this crap, I think, is to keep generating forgiveness. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, you're not, because it's taken. We're going on 11 months since his passing, so almost a year. It's taken me that long to get to this point of needing to release it. And the reason why I'm where I am now with it all, for the same reason as with the police departments, it's not serving me anymore.
And that's a beautiful choice to be in. Does it serve me or does it not?
Yes.
Can my energy go somewhere else and do more good? Absolutely.
I am so grateful to be self-aware enough to be able to go deep in the heaviness of this grief, really deep. But know that I cannot stay there forever. If I choose, and it is a choice, I love that, choice and courage. If I choose to stay there, I am choosing to hold myself back, hold my healing back, hold my happiness back, hold my peace back. And so that's why I am where I am today.
And you said you had a third component to this, right? So this is like the trifecta of...
This one, for chronological order, but this one here, I got my tissue because it's real. This one
is the deepest.
Yeah.
Right. Before you go there, can I just set the scene real quick? Like you and I talked about before we got on the show, that grief is dark and it can be dirty and it can be ugly. And there's a lot of beauty in grief as well, which is one thing you're bringing to the world, is you're being real and letting people talk about their grief the way they need to. But there's a lot of rabbit holes that we can inadvertently fall down in and let ourselves get stuck in, and never get out. And for people who don't know about rabbits, like it's literally proverbial an underground maze. One den has a whole bunch of tunnels that go to another den, and the nesting den is not the same as where they're nursing. It's when we literally talk about rabbit holes, it is literal and figurative, that you can go to so many places in so many different ways and not find your way out. And what we're going to offer here is that forgiveness is the light that brings you back out of those tunnels that you feel trapped in. It's the way to give yourself an out. It's a way to invite yourself into a higher way of being. And this next story, I don't know the story completely, but I know it's pretty darn raw. But part of the way through it is through it.
Yes. Kerry lived with his girlfriend. I'm just going to back up slightly. He was living here with his brothers and I most of 2020 during the pandemic. And when he told me at the end of the summer that in August he would be moving into a house with his girlfriend, I was absolutely elated for him. When he was found, again, his girlfriend, and I'm just going to mention her first name, Angela, was the one who notified me. And she loved my baby. They were together for 5 years, almost 5 years. And I was so looking forward to having a daughter after having all these boys. I wanted her with me when I went to the corner to retrieve his things. He was found in his van. He had a backpack with him. Now, before I go any further, he went missing on the 28th and he was found on the 1st. And I told you he wasn't dead that long. So it meant that for the 4 days that we were looking for him, he was alive. I wanted her with me because I know she loved him because they lived together. And I got his backpack, had to sign for it. I didn't look through it right away. I had a friend that drove and she was sitting in the back seat, and I hugged that backpack because this was the very last thing that he had with him. I smelled it, I hugged it like my motherly instinct. That's all I could do. And then I thought maybe she would want to do the same, so I handed the backpack to her. And I said, "Here, hold on to this." When we were on our way home on our way to drop her off, I said to Angela, I'm not going to go through the backpack, but I want to take this home so my boys can see. And in her grief, she basically cussed me out. I know it was in her grief because she never talked to me that way before. She said, "I've been sitting in this car for blah, 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 how long, and I want the backpack. I want to take it home, and I want to go through it." And I said, well, I wasn't planning on going through it. But again, my babies are waiting. And when I walk into the door with a backpack, that kind of will already, they would know, instead of me having to verbally do it because, my throat chakra was really closed up. And she said, no, I want to take it home. Now, because I understood she was in her grief, in that moment, Spirit said, ask for the keys. I said, well, at least let me have the keys. And these are the keys, these ridiculous keys. Can I take a step away and say, there's 22 lanyards on these keys, and there's a significance for the 22. But every time I would see this boy, I would say, why you have so many of those? You don't need all, you put it in his back pocket, they're hanging down. These keys. They smelled like the cologne he had in his backpack. Spirit told me to ask for the keys, and she took the backpack home. And I didn't bother her about his things. I didn't want to talk to her about any of that at that point. We hadn't even had a viewing or anything. He wasn't ready until a month later, in first week in February. And when I viewed his body, he didn't have his jewelry. It was all in the backpack. So I messaged her and I said, I need the backpack now. And I'm on my way. And, I know that I don't know if she was sick or not, or not feeling like, talking to anyone, which is very understandable. I said, you could just put it on your porch. I'll just come by and get it. But by the time I got to her home, literally 10 minutes after that, her mother and some other woman by the name of Tamara, interesting, was there to stop me from getting anything. I had to call the police just to get his jewelry so that he could be cremated with his jewelry on. To this day, I don't have any of his things. His musical instruments, his clothes, his wallet with all of his financial information. I have none of it. The only thing I have are his keys and his ashes. And it felt like another death because they were not married. And everything that belonged to Kerry now belongs to me and his brothers. Everything. And it's not that I want everything that he owns. I put her grief before mine. Do you understand? I let her hold what was mine.
Yep.
To this day, I haven't spoken with her. And Devin always loves her. Devin, my youngest, loves her and is always asking about her. And every time he's like, I want to go see Angela. And I just, I don't think she's ready. But really, we haven't connected. And that part hurt me the most.
Yeah.
And it's not that, there's a competition about who's grieving more, who this, but everything he ever owned belongs to me.
Yeah.
So I have held the deepest resentment in my energy, still love in my heart for her, for loving my baby, but the deepest resentment for the disrespect. I felt like I was being disrespected. I felt like just, I felt a bunch of things that I'm ready to let go. And I'm gonna tell you why. Kerry did not leave me. He left the circumstances he was living in. Whatever was going on with him wasn't happening because he was living here, or while he was living here, I should say. It was happening while he was living there. So the energy of whatever was tormenting him is with all of those things.
Sounds like a good bridge to being able to let go of the attachment to the
things.
need for things.
Yeah.
Sounds like a great doorway to the first step of forgiveness is letting go. Forgiveness means to push away or to pardon it completely. But the first step to get there is you have to let go a little bit, don't you think? And that's what you're doing with this story, and it's what you plan to do in the next 10 minutes or so, is to be able to let it go completely.
The 7D healing, before I became a practitioner, the 7D healing really helped me with this, because I was just, I was resistant to letting it go. Like, damn it, this shit belongs to me, legally and morally and any other way you want to see it. Doesn't belong to her or her family. But I have him. I have a continued physical connection. Now, let me tell you more about these keys. I told you that there are 22 tassels. Before I knew that there were 22 tassels here, Kerry wrote his suicide note on December 22nd. And he wanted to see the movie Soul. As a matter of fact, Angela was the one that told me. He wanted to see the movie Soul. That was the last movie he wanted to see. And if you've seen that movie, one of the main characters in that movie is number 22. And since his death, he lets me know in amazing ways through that number 22 that he is with me. It's not the only way, but it's one of the big ways to get me to calm my spirit so that I can get to this point of forgiveness. So out of everything, I could have asked for his wallet. I could have asked for, her to give me his debit cards out of his wallet. Could have asked for the phones. Out of all the things that was in his backpack, I said, well, at least give me the keys. That was spirit speaking, because that was the catalyst that led me to understand that my son is with me.
Absolutely.
And that he has never left me, that he didn't leave me when he made this decision. He left the circumstances that he was in. And so I'm ready to let it go.
Sounds to me like you are ready to leave the circumstances that you are in.
Exactly.
Through the doorway of forgiveness. Are you ready to do that now?
I'm ready. And so this is what I do. I actually have a negative energy release meditation that I lead, and I'll just do a very small, a very short variation of it. But if you would close your eyes with me, and to anyone who is listening, anyone who understands, anyone who needs to let go of resentment and move towards forgiveness, please close your eyes and take a deep inhalation in through your nose, breathing in the love from the universe, and exhaling gratitude to the universe. One more time. Breathe in deeply. Love from the universe that nourishes our bodies. And exhale gratitude to the universe. I am envisioning a beautiful light above my head, filled with love, peace, joy, happiness. And it is waiting to enter me, but there are some things that I need to let go to make room for this light. And in front of me, there is a dimmer ball of light filled with the resentment, the anger, the pain from the events that I just spoke of with Diane. Within this dimmer ball of light in front of me is the pain from not being notified properly, the pain of his things, his memorial, his vigil being tossed away, the pain of not being given his things. I release that dimmer ball of light back into the universe as it fades away, fading away back to the universe. I am now open to receive that beautiful, brilliant ball of light that is over my crown chakra, filled with love, filled with peace, filled with relief. And I envision that ball of light entering my crown chakra and filling my body. Because now there is room for this light. This light that I will radiate to all who cross my path, to all who loved my son. I receive this beautiful light. And to close this out, I want to take one big inhalation in, breathing in that love, and exhaling the love. I am complete. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you for having the courage to bring me on this part of your journey with you and for trusting me to do it. I hope you got what you needed out of this.
I want to say to my listeners and my viewers, I understand in the depths of your grief that there are so many things that you can be upset, angry about, and so much resentment that you want to hold on to, but you have the choice to release it. That light that I envisioned above my head, once it entered me, it became me. I am that light. And you have to make room for that light. It is up to you. The timing is up to you. But letting go is necessary in order to find your peace. And before we leave out, please stay to the very end, powerful manifestors, as I talk about the details to my son's memorial. I couldn't move forward with that memorial with all of that resentment and anger within me. And now I can officiate my son's memorial, having let this go. It's going to be December 7th at 12 p.m. Pacific time. You are all invited. It is a public open memorial, and even though it's a memorial, it's going to be Kerry style. My baby was all about celebrating, and we are going to celebrate his life. And I'm looking forward to seeing you there, Diane, hopefully. I just want to thank you once again for holding space for me as I release this in this way. There's one more thing I gotta say before I say goodbye. See you next time. There are a lot of people who love Kerry who don't agree with me expressing my journey in such a public way. I remember one of the messages I received was, please, for his sake, Kerry wouldn't want this. And what I have to say to that is, what Kerry wanted was peace, and he is now in peace, and his sake belongs to me. And his story, my journey, will help save lives, and it will help those who are left behind heal. So for those who may disagree, I'm sorry, not sorry, because Kerry would have wanted me to say what I want to say and to help others in this way. And so it shall be. Thank you
Amen
so
to that.
much. Thank you so much, Diane.
You're welcome.
Do you have anything, any final words before we sign off?
Just how beautiful this is. And in a piece that I wrote, I've often talked about not navigating your life by circumstance, that you navigate your life by choice. And to your listeners, they may not know where they're going to end up when they make a decision to change something, but they have to trust their heart that they cannot stay where they are. They may not know where they're going. They may not know how they get there. They may not know who's going to be on their journey, but what they absolutely know and they can trust is they cannot stay where they are. And that's what you've done for your listeners today. You cannot stay in that place of anger and resentment and bitterness, that you are tired and you have to put those bags down. And the way to get that release and that freedom and that peace is to step through forgiveness. So you may not know where you're going, TLotus, but you sure as hell know you can't stay here.
Absolutely. Beautifully said, Diane. I love you dearly. Thank you so much. And thank you to my powerful manifestors for tuning in. This was a heavy episode. I hope that you have found I hope it's helped you. I hope it's helped you. Sharing my journey has helped you. And have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your Tuesday. And I will see you next time. Peace, love, and light.
See ya.
Thanks for listening to Triple L, the Live, Love, Lotus Show. This podcast is produced by The Sacred Path as part of the Cornelia Stephanie Media Group and is supported by our amazing listeners. If you would like to support this channel, check out the links in the description below for ways that you can pledge a love gift of any kind. Your love gift will help keep these episodes coming with more positivity to your device. Deep gratitude for your support, and until next time, I'm TLotus. Peace, love, and light.